Thank you, Andy. No pressure at all. I am very, very excited, yet terrified to be here, to be honest. Exciting to be part of this great conference, which is all about helping people achieve their goals. And yet at the same time, I'm very terrified because I never speak in English. I am Dutch, so probably I'm very rude. Excuse me for that. I might stumble over words here and there. Again, sorry for that. But I think it's great to be here. This is my second time in Ireland, to be honest. And this is the first time. This is over 25 years ago. I traveled to the western part of this beautiful country, to Shannon. And my parents rented out a very small shack where we stayed for a week. And at that time in my life, me and my brother were into fishing. And I remember going into Ireland, which is, in my opinion, fisherman's paradise, with a lot of energy, because we were going to catch a lot of fish. And one day my parents told us, okay, we're going for a hike. You want to come along, or do you want to go fishing? And of course we decided to go fishing. This is, I don't know, does anyone recognize this village? Yeah, all right, I don't know anymore. But thank you for that. Anyway, we prepared our gear, you know, the sinkers and the floaters and all. And I remember telling my brother, this is going to be so great. We're going to set our personal best. I'm sure we will at least catch 25 fish each. And we started out fishing, and 8 hours later, my parents were a bit delayed. They came to pick us up. And of course, they were very curious. So how did it go? How many fish did you catch? And I told them, well, I got the whopping number of 0 fish. And you can imagine our disappointment. And we went into a local pub, and we had some drinks. And my dad started talking to one of the locals, and he told our story. And he said, yeah, of course. Your sons were at the wrong place at the wrong time of year with the wrong gear. They should have moved up a kilometer. At that time of year, it's fish infested. It's a lot of fish. They would have catch many, many fish, but not at that particular point. So what happened here is that we were basically wrong informed by ourselves, and with that, our expectations were way off, and we were disappointed. And I think this happens a lot when it comes down to personal finances. Risk, return, inflation. How much money do you need when you grow up? We are wrong informed most of the time. And with that comes the wrong expectations and disappointments. So I'm very happy Andy invited me. He told me in March, we were in London, and he told me what he does. He does 3 things. He told me he is a financial planner, which in his opinion is very important but boring. Maybe you recognize this. Then he said, I create this investment strategy, which is important but simple, we've heard today. And the third part is the behavioral coaching and guidance of my clients, so making sure they actually do what I tell them to do, to achieve their goals, which is very fun, but very difficult. And I noticed I've been in this room the whole day. I mingled a bit, and you know, you are smart people. So you know this, right? You do this all the time. I see a lot of people taking notes, which tells me you are intelligent, you want to learn stuff. This might cause a problem for my next question, because I have a very, very simple question prepared, and I wasn't sure if it's, you know, you might be too smart for this. But I also brought a bag of Dutch goods. I'll show you. This is licorice, very famous drop. Of course, I brought cookies, and we're famous for hash browns. Are we? Now, of course, we are famous for our cheese. So, I'm about to ask you a very, very simple question, and the one who answers the question correct will win all these 3 goods with the bag. But be loud, right? Shout as loud as you can. Are you ready for a very, very simple question? Might be too simple for you, but still. Ready? And I think if we just stretch the time between the stimulus and the response, you will have much better decisions. Let me do another one. I'm really happy that Andy told us to hand over a very brief introduction so I can talk about myself a little bit more. This is about me. There are 4 statements on this slide, and one of those statements is not true, a lie. So let's just check our eyes then. Maybe our eyes are trustworthy. We can use our eyes to gather the proper information. I've drawn 2 lines. Which one of the lines do you think is longer, or maybe they're the same length? Same length? Yeah, you've seen this before, right? This is called a Müller-Lyer optical illusion. And because I thought most of you would have seen this before, I just did a bit of foul play again. Because I changed the bottom one. So there you go. Your eyes are deceiving you again. And this isn't terrible when you go to the shop and come home with too much milk. But all these, the way we make decisions, if you make decisions like these, when it comes down to your personal finances, it might cause a problem later on. So I think we should dive a little bit into how this works and what can we do about it, right? So recently I had this interview with a Dutch professor, and she specializes in neuropsychology. And we talked about the concept of neuroplasticity. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but it basically sort of, in simple terms, means that you can actually change your brain. And we also talked about Carol Dweck. Anyone of you heard of Carol Dweck? Researcher from Stanford University. She identified 2 types of people. The fixed mindset type of people. These are persons who would say, I'm not a language kind of guy. It's very hard for me to learn a new language. Or, I've been born with big bones, so I cannot bet on my weight. This is a fixed mindset. You think you've been given certain abilities and can't change those. And the opposite of this is the growth mindset person. And these are the people who think if I have some guidance and education and persistence, I can actually grow and get better at stuff. And turns out they're correct. You can actually get better at things if you put your mind to it. So if you want to learn to kiteboard, you can. If you want to learn French, you can. I can actually think I could learn Gaelic. I'm not sure. We talked to the taxi driver this morning. It was very difficult. But I think I can if I just put my mind to it. Same thing applies the other way around. If you just do a lot of complaining back home, you get really, really good at complaining. So please be aware where you put your time, where you put your mind to. Okay, so this professor told me that we can actually change the way our brain works. There are 3 ground rules, though, you have to follow. First one, very easy, we can all do that. Make sure you sleep enough. At least 7 to 8 hours a night. All of you. Maybe one person can go with 4, 5, 6 hours, but most of you need 7 to 8 hours. Why is that? Because when you sleep, your brain actually learns and develops. Second thing, move enough. Get a Fitbit or an Apple Watch and make sure you put down 10,000 steps a day, which is really good for your brain as well. And the third thing is, and there we can as a profession can help our clients, make sure you put yourself into a new enriched environment. Circumstances where you learn new stuff, where you're challenged all the time. And if you want to learn new stuff, Ellen also talked about it, it's very easy for us to learn new things by listening and telling stories. It's an ancient art of storytelling, goes way back, and if you tell stories and you put a sort of a message in it, you can actually help people. And I use a story quite often to basically tell my clients why it's so important to have a financial planner. And I work at an investment company. We do a lot of investments, so I'm an investment advisor as well. And I remember that I was in it's end of 2015. This is my wife and 2 boys. The oldest one is Jack, the other one is Ole. And we were at the plane from China Airlines. We were about to fly out to Bangkok for a trip for about 4 weeks to Thailand and Cambodia. And this was on December 31st of 2015. And as a good investment advisor, I just checked my phone to see the closing price of the year of the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. And it closed at 445. Same time, Merel told me, we shouldn't use our phone as often. We're addicted to our phone, so let's not try to use our phone for news and email, only for photos and music. Okay, and so we agreed. And this went fine the first couple of weeks. We did a bicycle tour in Bangkok. Anyone did that? Great. Then we crossed the River Kwai on the bridge. We flew all the way out to Cambodia and saw the magnificent temple complex of Angkor Wat. Truly beautiful. And about 3 weeks on our trip, we ended up at a small beach at Koh Lanta. And it was a nice beach, secluded beach, with a lot of hermit crabs. You know, those crabs who use shells as houses. And a particular day, I was sitting at the beach, and I saw my wife and 2 boys looking at one of those crabs. And I thought, wow, this is a nice photo. So I got my phone out, made this photo, and at the same time, a Wi-Fi signal popped up. And I figured, they're there, I'm here, I'm not bothering anyone. Let's connect and check the news, Let's do it. So I did, and I opened this news app, and this particular app has a couple of figures on top, so you always see those. And the first figure made me smile, because of the weather in the Netherlands. And I was at the beach. It was 6 degrees and raining, probably sort of Irish weather as well in the Netherlands. Second one was the traffic, a lot of traffic. I was at the beach with a beer. I'm doing fine. But the third figure stopped my heart from beating. It was the closing price of the Amsterdam Stock Exchange. And I remember going away with 445. And I saw the number of 392, which is over a 10% drop. So I immediately called my colleague from the investment department 6 hours earlier in the Netherlands, and I told him, sell everything. Sell all my investments. I have no more faith. I want to get rid of them all. And he said, sure, I will do that. But first, let me ask you a couple of questions. And he asked me, have you been fired? Are you going to buy a new house? Are you extending your vacation? And all my responses were negative. So he said, okay, so nothing changed in your personal wishes and goals and situation? But you're totally about to mess up your full financial situation? Aren't you the guy who's been training financial planners for about a decade on how to invest smart? Aren't you the guy who wrote a book about financial behavior? Maybe you should reconsider. All right. So I hang up the phone. When we came back about 10 days later, it was almost recovered from 392 to 428, and the year ended with an 11.4 positive return. Thank God for my colleague. But at that beach in Thailand, in Koh Lanta, I realized something, that we are all human. We all are emotional when it comes down to your own personal situation. I can be rational to all of you, but not to myself. And I realized we all need a barrier between ourselves and our decisions. And that's what our job is, I think. And Andrew already talked about our ancient brain, and this explains a lot of our herd behavior and the way we compare things and why we think about the present instead of the future. For instance, I use quite a lot of stories with my clients to engage them in this concept of how we behave. Anyone know, well, maybe you can read it. Which space shuttle is this? The Challenger. And you probably know what happened with the Challenger. 72 seconds after liftoff, it exploded. Millions of people saw this happening live on TV, and 7 people on board were killed instantly. Of course, a big tragedy for them and their next of kin. And NASA immediately postponed the space shuttle project, and they, of course, launched a little investigation, or a big investigation, on what happened. A couple of reasons were identified, and one of the main reasons was that an O-ring, a rubber ring, started leaking, and with that, very hot fluids were pouring down the shuttle, causing a chain reaction, the end of the space shuttle. But maybe you've heard of something else as well, that NASA also found out something more extreme and bizarre, if you ask me, that this disaster could have been avoided. But one of the scientists involved in this particular project already predicted that this O-ring might leak because of the weather conditions. It was very, very cold for the time of year in Florida. There were a lot of winds, and so he said, well, let's not launch. Let's not do it. But in the end, nobody really listened, and in the end, everyone involved voted for go. Let's launch this shuttle. And it's documented as one of the well-known examples of groupthink. If we're in a group with people who know a lot, we tend to move along, which is explainable when we were the cavemen. But today, you have to ask your client the next question. Which group are you in when it comes down to your personal finances? Are you in the group of your colleagues? Are your friends a group? Or are you your own group with your little family at home? And I think most people are. So you shouldn't listen to all the other people all around you. Don't listen to the news. Don't listen to your friends. Don't listen to your colleagues. Listen to yourself and your advisor who has your best interest at heart. And of course, it's important, this has been told before today, that there's this huge gap between actual returns on the stock market and the returns most investors actually get. And if we just can lift this return a little bit on the right-hand side, you will help clients. But it's very hard to talk to people about numbers, and especially about growth. So I use a game quite often during presentations or little workshops with clients to engage them a bit in what actual growth is, and exponential growth and percentages. And let's do that with you. Maybe some of you don't know this little game, but you can choose. You can either press the green button and you will win 1,000 euros a day for 30 days in a row. Or you can press the red button and you will win 1 cent today, 2 euro cent tomorrow, which doubles every day for 30 days. Which one of you goes for red? Anyone for green? Yeah? Okay, so most people choose red because they got to know me a little bit now. I think, this is fall play here, Anyone, any idea how much red is worth? How much do you get if you press the red button? Most of you think more than green, right? So 60,000, 100,000, 500,000, a million? Million? Yeah, this is easy, right? This is linear thinking. 1, 2, 3, 4, easy. We cannot feel this. Almost 11 million euros. We cannot think or feel exponential growth. But you all know the big difference if you gain 1% extra every year for 30 years in a row, or 2%, or 3%. There's been a lot of research on your profession. Turns out you can actually help your clients get a 3.75 better return each year. That's basically pressing the red button. It's huge. We need to educate our clients, in my opinion, with little games and stories to help them make better decisions. Another one which is very interesting, and I think we can help our clients with, is help them think about themselves instead of others. So let's do a little exercise again. I have 5 more minutes. Perfect. You can choose. You can live here on this side of the metaphorical village in Chapel Street. And if you live in Chapel Street, you're going to make 120,000 euros a year. But all of your neighbors will make 150. Right? You could also move to the other side of town, go to Market Street, and here you will make 80,000 euros a year, and all of your neighbors make 60. Right? 80 over 60, 120 over 150. Where are you gonna live? Market Street or Chapel Street? Market? Yeah, Mark, you're honest. You're very honest. Market Street, right? And of course, most people will say, you as left-brainers probably would say, no, of course, Chapel Street, I make more money. But don't forget that in this street, you are the king of the street. You're hosting the neighborhood barbecue, right? People are renting your car because it's bigger than theirs. Where in that street, you're the poor guy, with a little car. You're not going on holiday as often as the rest of the street. You have to watch their houses when they're away. Yeah? So you feel miserable. And turns out there's been done a lot of research on this particular subject, and actually, people here feel miserable. It's true. It's insane. You have more money than there. But you feel miserable because you think you're worse off than the other people around you. You compare yourself to your peer group, basically. And your peer group changes all the time. It's your friends, your family, your colleagues. And the thing is, you just blow up one thing and then you start comparing. You blow up the income. But you don't know what happens inside the house. Maybe they have a miserable marriage. You know there's going on a lot. You don't know. What's much better is to look at your own perspective. What do you need to have a healthy, happy life? And maybe 80,000 is enough, or 120 is enough. It doesn't really matter. You have to look into your own situation. Stop comparing. It's very easily done, but please, don't look at other people. And if you want to compare, well, move to this street, because you compare with people who are worse off. And if you want to compare, just walk around 1 a.m. and see all the homeless people in the streets, probably, especially where I live in Amsterdam, Rotterdam, there are a lot of homeless people. Start comparing then if you want to compare, right? Okay, 2 more things before I end. Another question for you guys. 3 more questions actually in one drawing. Can you think about your own living room? You can, right? Very easy. You know where your chairs are and your window and your television, right? Okay, please think about my living room now. This is hard, but you can, because it's just imagination, right? You saw my 2 kids, so you probably think it's a mess in my living room. You're correct? Yeah? But you probably can. It's just imagination. Now think again about your own living room, but not today, but in 20 years from now. You can do that, right? But if you do look into your brain, what happens is you use the exact same part of the brain, as if you were thinking of my living room. Which basically tells us if you think about yourself in the future, it's sort of the same as thinking as someone else. Which is really hard if you have to make decisions for the future. Because you don't feel it that you don't have enough income. It's someone else who cannot go out for dinner. Right? And of course you can explain this because we're in our caveman time. We needed food now. So we would catch the antelope right away and we would never wait for a week and hoping we would see it again and it grew a bit because it ate enough and we shoot it then. No, we would shoot it right away. And we're still hardwired in this way. And why I think this is so important to help our clients make these better decisions and behave better is because if you look into research what makes us happy, it's the upper right part. It's the part where you are at beautiful locations with people you like. And this could be at the beach in Thailand, but it could also be at a mountaintop here or a hilltop here in Ireland with your best friend, or just in your backyard when the sun is shining with your kids. Doesn't really matter. It doesn't have to be expensive, but it costs a lot of time doing stuff with people you like. And time is expensive. And I think if we can help our clients gather enough money, they can spend more time with the people they love. Thank you very much.